TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. 3 bodies of hostages remain in Hamas captivity in the Gaza Strip. That after the body of Meny Godard is returned to Israel. Amid reported violence in Judea and Samaria against Palestinians, Jerusalem asserts that any incidents of lawlessness are dealt with to the full extent of the law. The new Damascus regime opens its embassy in London. The remains of hostage Meny Godard were returned to Israel. This was announced by the Prime Minister's office and the IDF after the identification process was completed by Israel's National Institute of Forensic Medicine. Meny Godard, a 73-year-old from the southern Israeli community of Be'eri, was murdered on October 7th of 2023, and his body was then kidnapped by the Islamist Hamas terror organization to the Gaza Strip. Ayelet, his wife, was also murdered by Hamas in the massacre that saw over 100 people murdered by the Islamist terrorist group in the community of Be'eri alone. Meny and Ayelet Godard are survived by 4 children and 7 grandchildren. May their memory serve as a blessing. It is important to highlight that there are still 3 deceased hostages left in Gaza in Hamas captivity who have now been there for 770 days, to include Dror O from Kibbutz Be'eri, Ran Gvili from the community of Meitar, and Sudhisak Rinsalak from Thailand, who was kidnapped while working in an avocado orchard of Kibbutz Be'eri. Meanwhile, the Islamist Hamas continues to violate the ceasefire on a daily basis.
While IDF troops were operating in the area of Rafah to dismantle underground terror infrastructure, all in accordance with the ceasefire, they identified 4 armed terrorists on the eastern side of the Yellow Line within Israeli operational control. Our forces acted and struck and eliminated 3 of the armed terrorists. Prime Minister Netanyahu has made it abundantly clear Israel will work to defend all of its borders and will do so independently to protect our nation from any threat. Prime Minister Netanyahu will make independent decisions for this country, for all of its citizens.
Despite Hamas's continued violations, Israel is working tirelessly in close coordination and cooperation with the U.S. Central Command to assist the civilian population of the Gaza Strip.
And Kogat announced today that about 250 Gazans in need of medical treatment and their caregivers and Gazans with dual citizenship exited Gaza on Wednesday through the Kerem Shalom crossing to the Allenby Bridge crossing and the Ramon Airport. Also, the Zikim crossing is now open for the entry of humanitarian aid trucks into the Gaza Strip. And the aid will be transferred by the United Nations and international organizations following thorough security inspections by the Land Crossings Authority of the Ministry of Defense. Hundreds of trucks carrying food, water, fuel, gas, medicines, medical equipment, tents, and shelter supplies continues to enter the Gaza Strip every single day in coordination with the UN, international organizations, donor countries, and the private sector.
Meanwhile, vis-a-vis the West Bank districts of Judea and Samaria, a growing international outcry condemning massed youth, who are referred to as Israeli settlers, who've abhorrently committed violent crimes and vandalism against Palestinian property in a number of villages in recent weeks, to include the burning of a mosque. Israeli officials have voiced outrage over the violent incidents, to include Israeli President Yitzhak Herzog and IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir, to which U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio added yesterday that the masked criminals had also attacked Israeli forces deployed to deal with the incident.
They also attacked Israeli forces as part of this. So I don't have all the details on exactly what happened, but this has happened in the past. But yes, look, certainly there's some concern about events in the West Bank spilling over and creating an effect that could undermine what we're doing in Gaza. We don't expect it to. We'll do everything we can to make sure it doesn't happen. I think you're just talking about the violence part. But I thought today the comments were very strong by the President of Israel and also by the IDF commander in the area. His own troops were attacked, as well as police officers. So I thought the Israelis today responded, and they actually sent forces to respond to the attacks today as well, which is why their forces came under attack by some of these elements.
Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, the Prime Minister's office spokeswoman, Shosh Bedrosian, stressed that any incidents of lawlessness are dealt with to the full extent of the law.
Any incidents of lawlessness are dealt with to the full extent of the law. The IDF operates under strict ethical guidelines and international law in Judea and Samaria. Commander of the Central Command made it clear that the IDF does not accept any situation in which lawbreakers harm property and civilians.
Ms. Bedrosian continued by highlighting the double standard in international media, which fails to report on attacks against Israelis in Judea and Samaria, to include 9 major terror attacks in the month of September alone that claimed the lives of 9 people and wounded 24 others.
Jewish communities are under attack, and they are oftentimes conveniently overlooked in the media. Israel has experienced a wave of terror perpetrated by individuals, many of them very young, inspired by vicious incitement in Palestinian social and traditional media, urged on by the Palestinian leadership. 9 major attacks took place in September, 8 in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria region, and one side, Israel. The security services were able to foil 105 major terror attacks. 9 people were killed and 24 injured in the September terror attack.
The PMO spokeswoman continued by accusing the Palestinian Authority for stimulating terrorism against Israelis, since it continues to systemically reward Palestinians for attacking and terrorizing Jews, including through its pay-for-slay practice.
The Palestinian Authority systematically rewards people for attacking and terrorizing Jews, and the more serious the offenses, the more money they receive. The abhorrent pay-for-slay initiative by the PA has continued, and the policy must stop, as it drives and it fuels terror against Jews. Now, as part of the ceasefire, Israel released 250 Palestinian terrorists serving life sentences. The PA paid these same terrorists, many of them from Hamas, and they have made a collective of $70 million.
Turning to London, where Syrian Foreign Minister Assad al-Shibani attended the inauguration of the Damascus regime's embassy in the British capital, to the cheers of Syrians crying out in joy for their nation's footprint in the United Kingdom. Subsequently, Minister Shaibani attended a Q&A session at the Chatham House, during the course of which he stressed that the relationship with the United Kingdom is not new, and claims by the British government adopting a pragmatic and cautious process vis-à-vis building relations with the new Damascus regime are simply false.
The British government, I think, has said that this is a pragmatic and cautious process of rebuilding the relationship. What do you think they mean by that?
In fact, we have not seen this personally. And I think our relationships with the UK are advanced. We're not talking about opening a new page. We are talking about deepening these relationships because they are strong ones. The UK took an advanced position relevant to other countries. They have removed all sanctions and they've opened relationships with the new Syrian government fast, and they supported us in the UN Security Council, as well as in other problematic files.
It is important to point out that former director of the British Secret Intelligence Service, MI6, Sir Richard Moore, acknowledged in a speech on September 19 of 2025 that his agency was responsible for grooming the al-Qaeda-linked Hayat Tahrir al-Sham before the fall of the Assad regime, which ultimately brought about regime change in Damascus. Sir Moore, who formerly also served as British ambassador to Turkey, stated that his agency had, quote, forged a relationship with HTS a year or two before they toppled the then Syrian president Bashar al-Assad, while noting further, quote, "Syria is a good example of where, if you can get ahead of events, it really helps when they suddenly, unexpectedly, move at a faster pace. This nimbleness is a fundamental requirement for MI6, he said, and I think we remain pretty good at it," per Sir Moore's remarks in a speech he made in the city of Istanbul, Turkey. Meanwhile, at Chatham House, when asked about Damascus's decision to base their governance on Islamic Sharia law and Islamist classes to the new Syrian military, the foreign minister of Damascus effectively dodged the question. And when asked about the massacre of Christians and Druze in the southern governorate of Sweda, Minister Shaibani claimed it was an internal matter under investigation and that Israel's intervention to prevent the massacre was not good for Syria. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I want to once again thank you if you are a supporter of TV7 Israel, since your donation is essentially helping us produce our daily news updates from here in Jerusalem. If you haven't yet supported TV7 Israel, please consider doing so. You can donate via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, as ever, pray for our persecuted brothers and sisters worldwide, along with prayers for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Essen wishing you a Shabbat Shalom u'Mevorach, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.